All right, happy Thursday. Thank you all for coming. So at this point in the evening, we usually do a little talk, and there's something called a koan in Zen Buddhism, which is a story or interchange between two Zen teachers or a saying, and it's something that you meditate with. And they sort of serve two functions. One is there can be a practice where you work through a curriculum of many hundreds of them over years, and that is a big chunk of the process of becoming a Zen teacher. But also they serve as inspirations for different sort of talking points in terms of, you might use one to highlight a theme. And so they have almost like an academic piece to them as well. And really it's just the history of people struggling with issues surrounding enlightenment and awakening and life, and just the challenges that come up in our practice. And of course the people that brought this from 2,500 years ago, from the Buddha all the way to us, were just like us. They're just humans. And so they've collected some of their thoughts, and now we're going to look at one of them. So this is the Mumonkan, which is a collection of koans that was collected by Mumon. And we're going to look at case 42. It's a little on the long side, so I get to read you a story. It's called A Woman Comes Out of Meditation. So, once, long ago, the world-honored one came to the place where many Buddhas were assembled. And the world-honored one is the Buddha. So that's just another title for the Buddha. When Manjusri, so Manjusri is a bodhisattva. So Manjusri is the bodhisattva of wisdom, like he has a sword, like that cuts through delusion. So Manjusri is like a supernatural being, like a very high in Buddhist sort of mysticism and mythology. Manjusri's, never had a human birth. Manjusri's a being that's all about striking through delusion and supporting wisdom and compassion. And anyway, you see like the Tibetan versions with many arms, right? So, okay. So when Manjusri arrived there, the Buddhas all returned to their original places. Only a woman remained. Close to the Buddha seat in deep meditation, Manjusri spoke to the Buddha. Why can a woman be close to the Buddha seat and I cannot? Keep in mind that there may be a little bit of sexism here, right? That this is going back 2,500 years, and even though this koan collection is only a few hundred years old, the story is much older, and so there's some unwritten or unspoken sexism here. So the Buddha told Manjusri, you awaken this woman from her meditation and ask her yourself. Manjusri walked around the woman 3 times, snapped his fingers once, and then took her up to the Brahma heaven and tried all his supernatural powers, but he was unable to bring her out of meditation. The world-honored one said, even hundreds of thousands of Manjusris would be unable to bring her out of meditation. Down below, past 1,200,000,000 countries, as innumerable as the sands of Ganges, there is a bodhisattva called Mamyo. He will be able to awaken her from meditation. In an instant, Mamyo emerged from the earth and worshipped the world-honored one. The world-honored one gave him the order. Mamyo then walked to the woman and snapped his fingers only once. At this, the woman came out of her meditation. Mumon's commentary. Old Shakya, and that's the Buddha, put on a clumsy play and was no better than a child. Now tell me, Manjusri is the teacher of the 7 Buddhas. Why could he not bring the woman out of her meditation? Mamyo is a bodhisattva of the initial stage. Why could he do so? If you can firmly grasp this point, then for you, this busy life of ignorance and discrimination will be the life of supreme satori, supreme enlightenment. So a lot going on there, right? So before I get into talking about it, I just want to sort of do like a play-by-play, like what in the world is going on there, okay? So the myth is you have the Buddha, and the Buddha's there, it's the world-honored one, and the other Buddhas are around, and there's this woman, who's just a regular woman, and she's meditating, and everyone else is stirring, and she's just there in concentrated meditation. And Manjusri shows up and is like, why is she so at peace? And I can bring her out of meditation, and then tries all these things, does all these supernatural powers, teleports her around, all this stuff doesn't work. right? But then the bodhisattva of the initial stage, right? The being from deep within the earth, the regular, because the initial stage is just regular life, right? So the lowest of bodhisattvas is just like, and she's like, oh, hey, right? So what are we getting at here? So there's a couple of, I think, kind of cool things going on here. One is like, what is our meditation, right? When we're sitting, right? What brings us in and out of our meditation? What brings us in and out of our mindfulness? What brings us in and out of our consciousness? Right? So imagine that I'm walking along and there's, I'm driving down the road and there's beautiful fields and trees and mountains and everything's happy, right? And like my wife is sitting next to me and then like she says something that I disagree with, right? And then I feel like all this emotion come up, right? So I've been pulled out of my meditation. I've been pulled out of my consciousness by my reaction to whatever was presented. Right? But this is what life does. Like life is like Manjusri Bodhisattva. It comes and it takes you to the highest of places. It takes you to the lowest of places. So this woman is showing us perfect wisdom, right? The highest place, the lowest place, the most spectacular place, the most painful place, the most distracting place. And then she's just there. And what Mumonkan is aiming at in sharing this is not to tell us, like, no matter what happens, you must be in a peaceful zazen-like state. Right? We're talking about being in an authentic state. Does that make sense, the difference? In other words, meditation is the vehicle by which we discover who we are, but it is not a desirable place to live. But it is a vehicle that we use to return to the place that we already live. So then here comes Momyo. Well, what's Momyo? Well, Momyo is just the stuff of daily life. Like, what's the difference between losing my mindfulness because a coworker irritated me, right? And I need to go tell them a thing or two about that. And coming out of meditation because my kid's like, Dad, Dad, Dad. Right? That's Momyo. That's conditions arising that require attention. So there's a lot going on in this koan, and I could talk about it way more than I probably will, because one of the traps that we could fall into is, I'm going to use my meditation to be a spiritual person and to be enlightened and to, as a Zen teacher who has an 8-year-old, right? I meditate a fair amount and I have a kid who bothers me a fair amount. And so what could that look like, right? But all of us are like that, right? There's always something bothering us. There's always something demanding our attention, right? Whether it's I remember I went to this month-long retreat, meditation retreat in Colorado one time on this place called Shambhala Mountain Center. It's a big, like, rural mountain center in the middle of nowhere. So for a month, there was no TVs. You're only with people who are practicing Buddhism. The animals are all calm and tame and happy. And then I leave. And remember, I left and I was driving home and I needed gas. And I pulled into the gas station and there's all these flat screen. This was probably 2004, but even then there was these flat screen TVs, right? And it's like I almost felt nauseous. Like I had to go to the car, right? So that's the world. And so we walk through this tension of, what is it today that is going to pull us off of our seat? And what is worth choosing to leave our seat? Does that make sense? So Manjusri is trying to knock the woman off of her seat. He's trying to prove this unclean, lesser, this woman, because, it's definitely, you go back to, Hindu culture, Buddhist culture 2,500 years ago, the word woman has a tone to it that it should currently have, right? It's that thing when sexist people go oh, women, right? right? It's like, that's kind of how I imagine a little bit of this is like, why is that woman still sitting there? And the Buddha's like, huh, you're being kind of a jerk. Watch, go ahead, try to do something about it, right? That's kind of how I see this. And so Manjusri's like, all right, I'm the great bodhisattva of wisdom. Watch what I can do, and doesn't succeed, right? And then the Buddha's like, she can come out of her meditation, like the lowliest thing, and this is our life. Our life. Here's the thing: our life is nothing but things which we need to attend to appropriately. Right? How do we attend to our thoughts? We attend to our thoughts through our mindfulness. How do we attend to the people in our life? Through our mindfulness, right? How do we attend to our reactions to things? Through our mindfulness, right? This is why we must sit, right? Because it's like we're lifting weights, but we're lifting the weights of being present, right? We're lifting the weights of working with what is. And then that is useful because then when what is comes up, we can appropriately respond, right? We can be in our meditation and we can be presented with what the world presents us with, suffering or irritation or joy or success, right? And we can be the woman coming out of meditation. We can just be, oh, hello. And then you just do what's in front of you, or you just feel what's there. This is the one, I'll say this and I'll stop. Like, because the other trick is like, the woman in meditation is not, in this koan, is not playing the game, right? She's not on either side. She's not proving that the Buddha's right, and she's not proving that Manjusri is wrong. And so often we get presented with things where there's two sides, and we choose a side, and then we go to war over it. And we're not trying to not have, we're not refusing to respond when a response is required. But we're also not getting into conflict where none is needed. Because a lot of times, the first thing is we just allow. What already is. So allow it. It doesn't mean approve of it. It doesn't mean don't work to change it. It doesn't mean don't be a full human. But what is, it's too late. When your partner doesn't do the thing you want, or your dog poops all over the floor, or your boss doesn't give you the promotion you were expecting, like all of those things, or your thoughts turn to, whatever your own sort of inner darkness and struggles are, right? Whatever is in there already is. And so if we're like, oh, well, I'll, nullify that by, whatever, saying that I'm all love and light, or using Zen meditation, or, it's okay to use a coping skill, but at a deeper level, like, you got to feel it to heal it. So it's like, okay, well, there it is, right? There's that persistent thought that I'm not good enough. Again. What happens if I just allow it, right? What happens if I'm just the woman in meditation and the thought's like, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. That's Manjusri just fucking with you. And it's like, nope, not gonna bite. But on the other hand, if someone is like, can you help me with a ride? My car broke down, right? You can be like, oh, sure, absolutely. No problem. Just hold the door for the person in front of you. Just do the thing that's in front of you. That's Zen. That's enlightenment. That's all it is. It's not special. It's just rare. And that's our practice, right? We sit with all the things that peck at us, And then when it's right, we respond. Things that don't require a response, we don't respond. Things that require a response, we respond. So